Hello, I'm Graeme Park, and welcome to another Creative Futures session where I talk to a variety of creative industry professionals in front of an online audience of students from Glyndwr University. Today, our special guest is a British actor who's appeared in the Ken Loach film Sorry We Missed You, as well as a variety of TV shows. Kris Hitchen wanted to be an actor from a young age and attended a youth theatre in Manchester as a child. At the age of 23, he auditioned for the lead role in the Ken Loach film The Navigators, but he didn't get the part. Despite a number of small TV roles, including Coronation Street, some TV commercials and theatre work, including a two-handed piece inside Her Majesty's Prison Manchester, Kris turned his back on acting and left the industry to become a full-time plumber and builder. However, at the age of 40, and with his wife's support, he decided to rekindle his acting career and return to the profession as a full-time actor. In 2018, he finally got his break and landed the lead role in Ken Loach's Sorry We Missed You, a film that went on to great success after its premiere at the 2019 Cannes Film Festival. In this session, Kris talks about what he's learned before returning to acting and how that has affected his decisions, his career, and how he applies what he's learned in life to his craft, and the importance of having something to fall back on and being able to be independent outside of acting. At the start of our conversation, I asked Kris if his plumbing and building background had ever been useful in his acting career.
I started doing bathrooms, tiling, fitting kitchens. I started moving into everything just so I could carry on working. And then with the lockdown, when the lockdown happened in March, I'd just come off a set. I came home. Thankfully, they'd paid me half my filming fee. And the first thing I did was I rang my mate round the corner. I said, "Can I borrow your van?" I ordered a load of timber from Wickes, soundproofing, went to Wickes, picked it all up, threw it all on the driveway and cut it all up into boards and built a sound booth, ordered a mic, learned how to use all the stuff on the computer and built a sound booth at home so I could start doing voiceover work from home, because I suddenly realized that if you want to carry on in the industry, you've got to make sure that you've got another string to your bow. And more importantly, you've got something that you can do independently of other people. So that was, so I did that. And all my actor mates was like, "You did what? You built a sound booth?" Well, yeah, I've got a circular saw and screws and I know how to do stuff. So yeah.
But this is probably because of your background, because like you've not come through the traditional route
No.
and got a lot of work and then been surrounded by people telling you how fantastic you are as an actor.
No.
Just by doing it yourself. I think that's a really good lesson, a good life lesson to pass on to people. So you ended up working with Ken Loach again, though. So
Yeah.
when you were 23, Ken Loach asked you to audition. You didn't get the part.
Yeah.
But then, what, 2 decades later or something?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
21 years. Yeah. So I'd left my agent. I'd packed in acting altogether at that point after the Coronation Street, and I did a couple of commercials and things. And I just thought, and things were getting really tight financially, and I just thought, nah, I've got to go back plumbing. So luckily, my son's 26, and he was plumbing. He was carrying on with the business in his own way. So I started going back and work with him and stuff. And then the casting director, Beverly Keogh, her husband got in touch, said the gas fire was broke, and they live miles away. So I ended up going over and fixing the gas fire for him, just for a job, just to see him and stuff. And then she says, "Oh, are you still acting? Who are you with?" And I says, "No, I says, I'm not with anybody. I've kind of like I've given it up." And she says, "No, you should carry on." So I went back to my old agent, and she started getting me some auditions. I'm getting to the Ken Loach bit. She started getting me some auditions, and she got me an audition for Game of Thrones, and I always wanted to be in it. And it was for the last episode of the last season, only 2 lines. I went down to London, read for it, and I thought, I'm in with a shout here. So, and then she rung me up and she said, "I'm really sorry you didn't get it." And I was like, oh. And I cried. I was that upset about it. And because sometimes you invest in the jobs that you want so much that you feel as though it's your job the minute you look at it. So it's like someone stole it from you, if you know what I mean. And then the Ken Loach job came up, and it had already come up once, and they were only looking for people from Newcastle, but they couldn't find anybody. So they moved it out into Manchester, Bolton. They wanted somebody with a building background. So I ended up going in for the meeting, and I met him, and we were chatting, and then.
Did he remember you?
No, because like, I brought it up, and he played all coy like he didn't remember me. And coincidentally, when we did start filming, I went and watched the Arsenal and Newcastle with him, and we sat having a chat. And the editor was there, and the editor, Jonathan, said, I remember you from The Navigator because you were in the opening scenes. And I went, yeah, that's right. And Ken went, yes. And I went, hang on a minute, Ken. You said you didn't remember me when I come for the audition. And he went, no, Kris, I had to do that because I didn't want to be over friendly with you in case I had to let you down that you weren't getting a job. Wow. Which is very clever of him, you know, because he doesn't want to build your hopes up, does he? So,
wow.
But yeah. So,
but anyway, that's a good tip. I must remember that for the future.
Yeah. Sometimes you've got to be what's the saying? Familiar and not friendly. So
yeah.
So, but friendly, not familiar. That's it.
Yeah. Right.
So these auditions, when these auditions were on for the Ken Loach job, if I'd have got the Game of Thrones job, I'd have been in Spain filming. So I'd have never have gone in for the Ken Loach job. And of course, two lines in Game of Thrones isn't going to do anything for your career, but playing the lead in a Ken Loach film just escalates it beyond belief. So yeah, I was very fortunate. I got the job I was supposed to get.
Yeah, I mean, if my wife was listening to this, she would say, "Oh, yeah, the universe is looking out for you."
That's exactly right. I agree with your wife. It's true. It's true. It's
true. So there you are, a lead in a Ken Loach film. Now, if you asked any proper, credible British actor of the past 30 years or 40 years even, what their dream role would be, I would guess a lot of them would say, "Oh, I want to be in a Ken Loach film." Yeah, and here you are, former plumber who kind of given up acting, and suddenly you're the lead in a Ken Loach film. What's going through your mind?
How much am I getting paid?
You can take the lad out of Salford.
It's true. It's true. Do you know what? Obviously, when I got the job, I was in bits for days. I mean, he rung me up, and I'd just been paid for a boiler that my son had fitted, and I was on my way back, and the phone went, and I pulled over, and I went, "Hello," and he went, "It's Ken," and I went, "Kenny." And he says, "It's Ken Loach," and I went, "Oh, all right, mate, what's up?" And he went, it's just, I just wanted to be the first to tell you, but I'd really like to make the film with you if you're up for it. And I went, "Yeah, all right, no problem." I was just like so chilled about it because I just thought, because my dad used to always say to me, if anybody ever puts a deal on the table, don't smile. You know, because if you smile, you cave in. You kind of like you're giving a little bit.
Exactly.
A bit yourself away. Poker face. Yeah. So I was quite chilled out about it and stuff. And then obviously I got home and I was in pieces then, because I realised, because I know Steve Everts, who played Eric in Looking for Eric, and I know what it did for him. So I was like, I was geared up and I was getting ready, because I thought, this is it. This is where it all takes off. So.
And what did your wife say?
My wife, God, right? I can say to her, "Oh, I've got such and such part. I'm going filming with such and such person." And she just goes, "Oh, great. What are we having for tea?" She's just like so grounded. It's unbelievable. She's like, she just doesn't care. She's so grounded.
Yes, I've got a wife exactly like that, which I think is quite good.
It is.
So tell us about the role then. How did you prepare for the role? And presumably this is the biggest role you've ever had, right?
Yeah, it is. It's not the most important one in terms of acting goals.
What is your most important role? What would you say that was then? What was it?
I just played the Duke of Norfolk in the Anne Boleyn drama for Channel 5, and to play that, I'm playing a character who's period. So a lot of, classical kind of acting skills come into it, the depth of your throat, having a commanding presence, the way you hold yourself. So there was a lot of other things that I had to adapt to and learn and teach myself, because I don't go to drama school. I haven't got anybody teaching me what an archetype is or any of these other fancy expressions are and stuff. I've just read books. I've read so many books and watched so many videos. I'm kind of self-taught in a way. And I take the bits that I like and I apply them to what I'm going to do acting-wise without damaging too much of what I've already got. So,
but presumably, though, you say you're self-taught, and you just told me that you like work out what you want to do. But presumably, directors will give you direction. That's what they do. How do you? What are you laughing at? How do you take to directors maybe saying, "Oh, I want it a bit more this way or a bit more that way"? How do you deal with that?
they usually leave me alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
That's
really,
because
really
you're a
weird.
Salford lad.
No, it's maybe, I don't know. They're either scared of me or no, do you know what? They all turn around and they say, you've got really good instincts. And when you're an instinct-driven actor, generally what you do 9 times out of 10 is right. That's why Ken chose me as well, because he knows that if somebody says something to me, the way I react comes from a place of truth. You know, you've had Karen Enthorne on, haven't you?
Yes.
Karen taught me. She taught me all
Really?
about how to, yeah, me and my mate Dave set up our own little acting group and used a place at a fire station every 2 weeks and paid her. And she would come and we had like so many of our mates come and we did 3 hours with her. And we did it for nearly a year and she taught me everything. She taught me all about connecting, just being yourself, being relaxed. How something comes out of your mouth. It doesn't matter what you're thinking at the time because we all say things without thinking. So when you say it, you just say it. Don't think about it, just say it because it's never wrong and it's never right. You've just said it. And that's the truth with human beings. When we say stuff, a lot of us just say it. We don't even intend anything behind it. So bizarre. It's a really freeing way of acting though. You don't get bound up in all those little notes. I've worked with actors that carry the scripts around with them and they're clinging onto it and it's filled with notes and everything. And I just look and I think, I know the words. I'm just, however you say your words, I'm going to react and I'm going to say my words back to you depending on which way I want to steer the conversation. You know,
so for the most part, it works then.
It works. It works all the time, I think, because unless there's this particular intention. I mean, what I try and do when I build a character with a script, because you have to understand with Ken, you don't get a script. You basically get told the setup. You get given a couple of pages of dialogue, usually the night before or in the morning when you're on the way to set. You skim read them. You try and get it bulleted in your head so you've got the story and the outline of what's happening, and then you just say it. You just say it. And usually the other person has been given more of the script than you've been given. So they will react in a particular way. They will act in a particular way. So they'll action it and then you'll react. And that's how he gets the performances out of the actors. It's very clever how he does it.
And so how many takes do you have to do with it on a Ken Loach film for different scenes?
Usually 2 or 3.
Wow.
Usually 2 or 3. Because usually the first one's the truth. You know, and that's usually the one that he wants. But then he obviously he gets a backup one just in case.
Well, am I right in saying that presumably then if there's not so much script and a lot of it's just improvising the situation, because you have to get into the role of the character in your head.
Yeah, you live in it. Yeah.
Does that mean if there's no script to worry about, that's why it takes less time to shoot because nobody's worried about lines?
No, I don't. Oh, yeah, hang on, you're stuttering. Oh, there we go, you're back.
All right.
What you say, less time to shoot? No, I mean, it was 6 weeks to shoot.
No, I mean each scene. I mean, you said 2 or 3 takes. So,
right,
sorry. You don't have to worry about people messing up their lines and making a real pig's ear of it.
No, but here's the thing about lines. The amount of jobs that I've been on, even after Ken's jobs, where I'll say a word differently or I'll say something slightly different, but it still means the same. The story's still the same. The story's the most important thing in the scene. Sometimes it's not about the words. I've had scenes where I've had dialogue and I've chose to not even say the dialogue. I've just looked at them instead. And while the camera's on me, and just thought in my head, I don't need to say anything because that look says far more than what you wrote on that piece of paper. it's about having the balls sometimes and taking ownership of what you're doing, you know. And you can get away with it on camera, especially when there's a 50 mil right up in your face. You can get away with doing so much stuff that's, you know, that when they come to the edit and they look at it, they go, oh shit, yeah. That little look there where he had that little like little twitch in his eye where his lip curled, that says more subtly than what the word would have said, you know.
So I mean, where did you learn all this? I mean, if presumably when you were a plumber before you went back to acting, did you spend a lot of time watching great actors and taking it in or not?
I spend a lot of time watching bad actors. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because if you watch bad actors, you learn how not to do it. So,
well, give us an example. I mean, I'm not necessarily.
All right, so Cobra Kai, Cobra Kai is on Netflix at the moment.
Right.
There isn't a single performance in it that's believable or any good, but I love watching it because it's like the worst kind of American trash you can possibly watch, but it tells you everything that's bad about acting. You know, all the big eyebrows and all the big facial expressions. It's like they're acting for stage. They're performing in front of the camera, and you don't have to. You need to be really.
Yeah.
I try and do a thing where I hide my eyes a lot from the camera, and I'll only look at the camera when I want to make a point of what I'm saying.
But where did you learn to do this? I mean, these little nuances you talk about, like a look and a twitch here and there.
Karen,
there you go.
Karen, it's great. She gave us a lesson. She turned around. She says, if you want somebody to leave the room, and they come in the room and you say, leave the room, right? If you look at them and you go, leave the room, right? Or you look at them and you go, leave the room. The one that's softer, the one that's quieter, the one that's more controlled is the one that's more powerful. And it's the same with everything in acting. If you don't, the way you know who's the most powerful person on stage is the one that doesn't move, because they hold that space.
I'm going to try those techniques on my 16-year-old twin boys. See if that works and get back to you.
Good luck.
So that you talk about in front of the camera. What about theatre work? I mean, have you done any theatre? I mean, apart from your pub stuff to get on Spotlight, have you done any theatre? And if so, what? How do you approach that?
The first theatre job was at Bolton Little Theatre, an amateur dramatic job, and I just, because I thought, right, I'm going to go back acting. I need to throw myself in, because the one thing about theatre work is it teaches you the craft to work hard, learn the scripts, learn the words, learn the blocking, learn the movement, develop the character, develop a way of saying things, that a slight difference in your accent, and all these wonderful things that you can then use in TV when you start getting offered those really nice TV parts. So I went to Bolton Little Theatre and did an amateur dramatic farce, like a comedy. I nailed it. It was great. It was my first. I was shitting my pants. I'd not been on stage since I was a little kid, and I did that, and then I was doing the little plays with my mate in the pubs, and then I got a phone call off. There was an audition came up for a prison piece, what an ex-prisoner had written, and so I went and I read for it. And it was playing an heroin dealer in a cell, and his mates doing a poetry course. And anyway, the character, the heroin dealer, ends up getting his mate on the smack. And he's in the cell, and he ends up ODing, and he has problems, and he has a stroke, and that's the end of the play. Really, it's based on a true story what this guy saw when he was in Wandsworth. So I went and read for it, and he turned around to me and he says, "Oh, you're not right." He says, "I'm looking for a really big black guy, because it's originally written for a big black guy." He said, "You're good at what you do." He said, "But you're a little like skinny dude from Salford." He says, "So," he says, "it's not going to carry the same thing." And I was like, "Right, okay." And anyway, he got a big black guy who's a fantastic actor as well, by the way, but he ended up getting offered a part in London, which was worth a lot more money. So after one show, he did one. And then Dean come back to me and said, do you want to do it? And I went, yeah, all right, I'll do it. And he went, great, you've got 4 weeks. I need you to go to Nigel's house, who's playing the other guy. It's a 2-hander, so there's 2 of you in it. You need to rehearse it. You're on in Strange Ways in 4 weeks. And I was like, right, all right. So I've got 4 weeks, and then you want me to go in a prison in Manchester where nobody's ever acted before, in a gym, build a set, no lights, no music, no tech, and sit in front of and act in front of 100 Cat A prisoners.
And play a prisoner.
And play a prisoner convincingly. And I went, yeah, all right, I'll do it. Because I figured if I could go and do that, I could step out at any stage in the world, because there would be no harder stage to play than that.
That's interesting to say that, because a few years ago, I was invited into Strange Ways to do some teaching.
Really?
So I know what it's like, and I can tell you now, although I was doing something that I've been doing for a while. It was very odd. So I can totally understand that you being in that austere surroundings, full of people. Did you find people looking at you all the time?
There was one guy that was getting really creeped out over, and he started mithering me at the end and saying, I need to know your name, I'm going to look for you on TV and all this stuff. And I was thinking, oh shit, what are you in for?
Yeah, I got some of that. So at the end, presumably it was a success. What response did you get from the audience?
Do you know what? It was 2 yardies sat on the front row, you know, sucking the teeth and stuff, and like full of the dreads. They were big lads, these 2.
Yeah.
And they turned around and they said, "You've been inside, haven't you?" And I went, "No, I've not." No.
Wow.
And they went, "No, seriously, the way you hold yourself, the way you move and stuff." And I went, "No," I said, "I've just grown up around a lot of people." And this goes back to what you said before about age as well. If you've lived a life that's very colourful, you know, Ian Brown has a line in one of his songs, doesn't he, where he says, "I've been to places that rich can't even go," something like that, because he's poor. He's been to these places and rich people could never go to them because they wouldn't allow themselves. So, and that's a really vital thing as well about when you're older and you're an actor. You've got all these colours and all this life that run through you, and you don't even realise it, just with a little luck sometimes. So, but yeah.
So going back to technique then, and the craft. You said you watch bad actors, but what actors have you admired over the years, or what actors do you admire now, or what actors have you seen and thought, oh yeah, I think I might try and do a bit of that in my next performance, or is that not how it works?
So yeah, you are right, and I always tried to steer away from copying and stealing things off people, because I never thought that it was a good thing to do. And then I've just worked on a feature film where I play a murderer who's oh God, I keep getting offered these villain parts. I'm really good at them though. But I own a load of hotels. Yeah, I know. I own a load of hotels in Yarmouth, in Great Yarmouth, and I'm married to a Portuguese woman, and I rent the rooms out to Portuguese immigrant workers, and one of them owes me some money, and I end up murdering him and stuff. And anyway, there's loads more goes on. Massive script, massive part, lead part in it. So, really, really weird film to work on, because all the crew were Portuguese, the director was Portuguese, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. I had 2 massive arguments with the director, like saying to him, "If you start speaking English, maybe you'll be helping me," and all this stuff. So, which you've got to do. You've got to kind of stick up for yourself, haven't you? But one of the other actors that was in it, Nuno, he's big in there. He just played that boxer character in that White Lines thing on Netflix. But he's been doing it for years, and he gave me 2 films to watch, and he said, "Watch these 2 films. Watch the villains in the film. Watch how they play the villains. Watch how they do this, how they do that in certain scenes." And one of the actors is Ben Mendelsohn, who's an Australian actor. He's amazing. He's such a good actor. He can just turn on a sixpence. He can hold it all here. You can see it all building. And then when you don't expect it as the viewer, he can just bang, he can just snap, or he can go the total opposite way. So he's constantly keeping you guessing. And through watching him, I've stole some stuff off Ben Mendelsohn. Because you've got to do, if you admire something, nick it. change it. About Steve McQueen as well. I watched a lot of Steve McQueen stuff growing up, and what I always noticed about Steve McQueen is I could never take my eyes off him. So, and I always wondered why. So I watched the biopic a couple of years ago, and there's a scene where he's with Yul Brynner, and they're on like a wagon with the horses, and Yul Brynner's in the foreground in the shot talking, and Steve McQueen's in the background, and Steve McQueen just like gets the shotgun cartridges and shakes them like that, loads them in the thing, and then starts playing with his art, and it's called scene stealing. So it's something that I've always tried to do now, to be alive and to do something so that you're always interesting, so that you're always doing something.
Is that the Magnificent Seven?
I think it is in the Magnificent Seven. Yeah.
I'm going to rewatch that now.
I think he does a thing with his cowboy hat as well, where he scoops it through some water and puts it back on his head to cool himself down, and he's right at the back.
Excellent.
But everybody sees it. The Anne Boleyn thing we just shot, we had a big banquet scene, and the camera was going to start, after it had done the shots of the mains that were there, it was going to start tracking around the table. And in this particular scene, I didn't have any dialogue. I was just sat at the table, and I picked an apple up and a knife, and I'm waiting for this tracking shot, and I'm like this, getting ready to peel the apple, and I kept doing it in every shot. So I was getting ready, just on a wide, it at least established that I had an apple and a knife when it come around, because I knew it's going to come, and then I'm going to do it. And anyway, it's coming, and they were all like, "What are you doing with that apple and knife?" And I'm like, "You'll see." So this camera starts tracking round, and like even the director, Lindsay, was like, "Oh God, what are you going to do?" And I'm like, "It's all right, Lindsay, I've got this." And it comes, and as the camera come, I went to peel the apple, and schoolboy error, I hadn't set my prop. You should always set your prop, which I should have pre-sliced the apple and then pulled the knife back, so that it was easy to slice and I can just get it in one shot. So you set your prop. That's the biggest tip I can give. Set your prop. I hadn't set it. And as I went to peel it, I cut too much off, and it just rolled off the apple and went dink on the plate. And I just picked it up, and the camera's still there. I just picked it up, shoved it in my mouth, and started eating it. Everybody, there's like 150 people in his room, just pissed aside, laughing. We've been waiting for this apple for like an hour and a half, and you fuck it up. So I set the prop and ended up doing it, but they said it was cool. But it was little things like that. Everybody was talking about it after saying it's amazing. You just did this little thing.
This Anne Boleyn film, you say Channel 5?
Yeah.
When's that coming out?
They're getting a shift on with that. That's going to be probably the end of autumn, I think.
Right, so we're all going to be looking for that apple scene, aren't we? We're all.
Yeah. I hope it makes the edit.
What? We'll all be disappointed if it doesn't. Tell us though, it's Anne Boleyn. So is that a Tudor period film?
Yeah, Henry VIII.
So you're a former plumber from Salford.
I am. Yeah.
You used to go to Hacienda.
Yeah.
So what's it like dressing in Tudor clothes, period costume?
So this is why it's like this is why it's the most important job that I've done to date. When we were in the big hall and they dressed it all, they were doing a big scene where everybody were dancing, and I'm sat there, watching everybody taking it all in, and I just got overwhelmed, and I had to go outside and have a minute and just calm down, because the thing that happened was, in between doing that job and working with Ken, I've played a lead opposite Sheridan Smith. I've worked with Colin Farrell, Jack O'Connell. I've worked on loads of amazing jobs, but not for 1 minute have I ever accepted the fact that I'm an actor. That's the weirdest thing. I've never gone, "Oh no, I'm an actor and I'm actually doing it, and I'm working with good people and I'm doing this and I'm doing that." I've never let that enter my mind at any point, and that day it did, and I ended up, I had to go outside. I was like, this is just, I'm actually.
Is it because of the costume, do you think?
It was because of the voice, because obviously playing a Duke, I had to have a particular voice where I was like really, it's like really deep, work better than this. When I'm in character and I'm doing it.
I believe you.
So I had to do all these things, and it was a big hurdle as well for me, learning this deep, commanding, posh English accent. It was a big thing for me to do, because it's not something that you grow up listening to in Salford, is it? So, So yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned earlier that you had a big argument on working on your Portuguese film with
Oh yeah.
with the director, and you mentioned to me yesterday that you recently had a big argument with equity.
Oh
So,
God, yeah.
different actors have different views on equity. What's your view, and why did you have a big argument with equity?
So yeah, because of the old situation. Well, I said to you, didn't I? Obviously, like I have a limited company to and then pay myself a wage and stuff because it's just an easier way of managing things. And I pay my rates into equity, and they put the rates up depending on how much you earn and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And when the furlough thing came around, everybody in this industry, yourself included, was getting hammered. We were getting nothing. We were freelancers. We were knackered. We wasn't going to get any help. So I was really disgusted with the way that equity were handling it. They'd not released any statement. They'd offered no support. So I got in touch with them. They didn't reply to me. I rung them. Obviously, they weren't answering the phones because everybody just went into panic mode. That was the really annoying thing about what happened in March. And then I emailed them again, and I sent them a stinking email and said, look, it's basically cutting a long story short. It's all right for you to take my money, but the minute I want you to do something for me, it's pretty obvious you're not interested. So I won't be giving you any more of my money. And that was it. I mean, if you're paying somebody for a service, you expect something back when you need it. So it's like car insurance, isn't it? Imagine paying your car insurance and crashing your car, and then I'm saying, yeah, we're not going to answer your phone or your emails. Sorry, mate.
That's a good point. So you're not a member of equity then?
No, I've quit.
Okay.
Yeah,
and will that affect you getting work or not?
No, not really. No, I don't know. I hope not. I don't think it will.
Well, what would you say to someone who's starting out on their career about equity? Should they join or not?
The only thing equity will do, right. So here's the thing that's great about equity. If you do stage work and the insurance for the production company, because their insurance will be quite low, if you break your leg and during a performance, the insurance that they might only pay out so much, whereas equity will bridge that gap. So it's like gap insurance.
Yeah.
So then they will go and fight your claim in court if they're trying to wriggle out of it. So they will help you from that aspect. I've not had to go through that with them, so I don't know how much help you would get, but given my coronavirus furlough dealings, I don't think it'd be much. I think I'd probably be better just getting a solicitor. So, but it's different. It's different on film sets. Totally different, because on film sets as an actor, you're insured for millions, whereas on stage down the dog and duck, you're probably only insured for about 50 quid in a bag of crisps. So and you'd be lucky if you get the crisps.
Okay. Right. So let's look at time's getting on. So let's just look at you haven't got a website. You have got an Instagram, which is great. But I need to ask you, why are you wearing a Scotland shirt on your Instagram? As a Scotsman, I need to ask.
No. Right, it's really strange. So I'm part of the Scottish Mafia now. Yes. So what's happened is in the industry, there's like this Scottish Mafia. There's a lot of actors that are obviously Scottish. There's a lot of directors that are Scottish. There are a lot of producers, etc. And they all like clutch together and help one another out and stuff. And it just seems that even when I was working with Ken, everybody I've worked with is a member of the Scottish Mafia. Brilliant. So it's just been bizarre. But my uncle's Scottish, because when I grew up, he's from Glasgow. When I grew up, I used to spend a lot of time with him. So I learned a Scottish accent, quite a convincing one as well. So
have you used it in acting?
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah. I've played a Scottish guy in a couple of things actually. So yeah, they like me. Go to Yorkshire and Scottish and go-tos. They find them really easy to do. So, but yeah, and I thought it was great that Scotland got in the Euros. So I thought, right, I'm getting a Scotland shirt.
Good man.
I never buy football shirts ever, but I bought that one. I thought it's going to suit me.
Well, I'm impressed. You don't have to say any more to impress me than that. But my point is, you're on Instagram, but you don't seem to have a website. And in fact, to be honest, we had to all really hunt hard to find stuff about you online. Some actors will say that in the 21st century, an online presence is really important. What's your view on that?
If you give too much away, or you give anything away freely, then you're giving it away cheaply. So I try to like hold things back, because there's a lot more than what I've discussed with you or anybody else that's gone on in my life that I think's far more interesting, and that stuff's for me. And I'll speak to that when I'm on This Is Your Life or whatever. This is your life. Is that still a thing? Is this is your life still a thing?
It's funny you should mention that, because we had John McArdle on recently, and he was one of the last people on This Is Your Life. And
really,
I asked him about that, and he was really taken aback that
someone remembered it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I don't think it's a thing anymore, because I suppose with social media, This Is Your Life wouldn't really count for anything, would it?
There's too many people throwing everything and anything, and you know what? I'm not that interesting. And
I don't know about that.
No, I am, but I think there's so much stuff out there that it gets diluted. So I don't see the purpose of it. I'm there. See, I went to Cannes with the Ken Loach job, and obviously it was like it was a minefield. So after that experience, I kind of like said to my agent, I'm not doing press anymore for anybody's stuff. I'm not interested. I want to step away from it all. I just want to turn up, do my job, and get paid. So that's the mindset that I have. I'm very professional when it comes to it, that it's a business. It's not called show friends, it's called show business. So I just turn up and do my job.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, it's not show friends, it's show business. Good tip. I mean, I was going to ask you for some tips, but that's a great tip. And I think your prepare your prop tip is one of the best tips we've ever had in this series. So everyone who wants to be an actor, remember the story about the apple.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon? What's coming up for you in the next 12 months or so, or the next few years?
I've got a war film coming out in the next. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks, but we're still not sure. Where we play miners from the First World War. And they dig underneath the German tunnel and plant a big bomb. It's a true story. So we all play the actual true guys that did it. So that's excellent. A great film, brilliant film. Got that coming out. There's a court case. There's a court case going on with a drama that I did for the BBC with Sheridan Smith, where 4 young lads got murdered. They're just waiting for that to be cleared up now, that court case. The minute it is, then that drama's being screened as well. So yeah, I've got the Great Yarmouth film, Anne Boleyn, and the Northwater as well that I did with Colin Farrell. So got that coming out.
So it would seem then at the age of 40, you'd certainly made the right decision to go back to try and pursue a career in acting. If you could go back in time and talk to your 11-year-old self who just left your little stage school, what would you say to your younger self? What from what you've learned now, what would you say to your younger self?
Probably from here on out, it doesn't matter what you do, because everything turns out all right, I guess.
Yeah, that's the universe again,
yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, I have great faith that it's interesting. When you're hungry and you're starving, someone always comes and puts some food in your hand. It's bizarre, isn't it? The world we live in. Obviously, when I'm filming in cities, I walk past a lot of homeless people and stuff. And I'll buy them something if they've not got something. But 9 times out of 10, I see them, with everything apart from, a great deal of money in the pocket and a roof over their head. But they've got everything else. I know it's a really touchy subject to talk about, but nobody ever walks past another person and leaves them with nothing. And I think that the universe kind of does the same thing. If you need something, it comes, and it comes at the right time when you need it the most. So.
Okay, I would normally ask now any regrets, but I'm guessing from what you've told me and how your life's panned out, you probably don't have any regrets.
No, I don't. Which I think's a really cool way of living, because I think that's the one thing that I set out to do. Because I kind of realised that, You know, if I was going to carry on plumbing till I was 60 and smoking 40 fags a day and drinking 8 cans at night, do you know what I mean? And not looking after myself, I'd be on my deathbed going, I wish I'd have done. I wish I'd have done.
Yeah.
So, and now I can die a very happy person when I'm in whatever age, you know.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's quite a long way off.
Yeah.
But for all of us, one last question then. What would be your dream role as an actor? Or have you thought that? Star Wars?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose there's probably a decent chance of that because there's so many different strands in the universe.
There is. They use a lot of English actors as well, and they often use quite a lot of unknown English actors. So.
That's a good point. I did ask this. I've asked this a few times. I asked Craig Parkinson this, and I asked John McArdle this. Why do the Americans love an English or a British actor?
Because we're not the kind of actors you see in Cobra Kai. And that's why I watch American stuff, so I can learn how not to do it.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, look, Kris, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For joining us. We've obviously covered everything because I've put in the chat if anyone's got any questions and no one's come up, which suggests we've covered everything. And listen, it's fantastic to talk to you. We really appreciate you sharing your stories and experience. So everybody, thank you very much. Kris Hitchen.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.